Hello and welcome back. I'm David Bianco. So it's no time to beat a dead horse on MOFI and the issues related to that, but it is time to possibly look at some other labels that provide us much more transparency about their processing and their original source material. And they've been doing it for years. Not a big catalog, but the ones that I've got from them I've been impressed with for the most part. So I'll share that with you next on the sound of Safe and Sound, Texas. Thanks for coming back. Before we get started today, I'd like to ask you to please press the subscribe button there and ring the bell to get notifications. It certainly helps me out on the channel. And again, if you do like the video, if you could indicate that and any comments you might have, I'd appreciate those as well. I've been trying to respond to all of them and reading them, and they're very, very interesting and helpful. So, when I looked at the whole MOFI situation, I reflected back on labels that I've been buying otherwise, which are of the audiophile bent. As I said in my original video on the MOFI, I've been buying their products since 1978, so they were more or less the gold standard for me. I know that there have been other labels like Analog Productions that has come by and made some very impressive pressings in the recent past, and have picked up some of those and enjoyed them immensely. But again, MOFI really is kind of where all this started from where I sit and from what I remember being in this long of a time. And so another label that I had heard about here in the last 10 years or so was a label called Speaker's Corner out of Germany. And they were known for classical jazz and pop rock releases. Not a huge catalog, but they certainly were very overt about their information and being pure analog and giving a lot of information toward that on their website as well as on the record itself. They also did some very interesting things with the labeling, to where they didn't establish their own catalog number. They used the original catalog number from the label, whether it be Warner Brothers or CBS or whomever. That way they kept the jackets intact in terms of the way they looked and the numbering that was on them. And so any of their modifications they did on a sticker. And on that sticker, they also then put the barcode. So they tried to keep the packaging as close to the way it was as possible. Another just little caveat. So they basically have been going from direct from tape to cutting the lacquer. That's been their process for years. The one exception that they came out and said was overtly was the Alan Parsons Eye in the Sky that I have right here. Okay, so I actually did a review of this, and I'll put a link to that in my description. But I did a shootout between the original version of this, the OG, the Speaker's Corner, and the Mobile Fidelity 2x45. And so what's interesting on that one is in the shootout, I actually gave the edge to the MOFI over the Speaker's Corner. And so it's interesting because we believe, based on what Speaker's Corner has said, that they went direct from the digital to the cutter. So they didn't have any intermediary step, where I know that MOFI went from the DSD, they created a DSD out of the copy out of the original digital as well. So they did have another step in the Gain 2 system on this particular album. And so they could have made it a little hotter, but it does sound stronger and bassier. And this is a very clean version, but it's a little bit soft in the sense that it doesn't really have quite the punch and impact that the MOFI does. So it may be truer in some ways to the original digital tape and the way it comes straight off of digital into a lacquer, which is interesting because maybe this is what MOFI discovered too. And that they had to use that Gain 2 system in order to make a better sounding record. So again, don't want to get into that whole process here. I'm going to talk about Speaker's Corner, but this is probably the one album of all the Speaker's Corners I have and played that I think didn't really measure up as strongly. And ironically, it's the only one that appears to have come straight from digital to getting cut for vinyl. So just an interesting fact. So Speaker's Corner basically it says very clearly, you know, made from the original analog master tapes, which a lot of places say. I mean, that's kind of like what MOFI says as well. But they have a site called pure-analogue where they explain their processes, which is extremely interesting because they provide some details, and I'm going to show you some examples here on your screen where they actually have show you magnetic tape and what that's about and how that's used in the process, the tape machine. They talk about equalization, the cutting lathe, the lacquer disc, and then they outline who their cutting engineers are that they use. So, you know, fairly transparent situation, and they've had a lot of this data up since 2016. So that's kind of been the way they operate. So here's another Alan Parsons that sounds great. The Turn of a Friendly Card really is a great one. The Doobie Brothers, one of my favorite 70s albums by the Doobie Brothers, Captain and Me, really sounds fabulous. Another one, Earth, Wind and Fire, That's the Way of the World, really sounds great. There's another press by Impex that also is very strong. They kind of go neck and neck with each other. You know, and these records, just from a cost perspective, and I know they've gone up recently, they're about probably $40 now, $42. They were 35 or so. But they are quiet vinyl and they are very well made. This is a really great one. Lou Reed Transformer. Boy, the bass on Wild Side on this one is Take a Walk on the Wild Side is just unbelievable. Knock your socks off. Really a great pressing. One of my favorite albums ever, Days of Future Past. I have a lot of pressings of this, and this one sounds glorious. It's right up there with the original master recording MOFI that I have. And the last one I'll show you is Toto 4, one of my favorite albums as well from that era, and sounds fabulous. So those are just examples of some of the albums that I have that I think really, really sound good from Speaker's Corner. Again, if you go to that site, pure-analogue, ANALOGUE.com, you will find details on what they do. And you will also find more information, of course, on their site, which is speakerscornersrecords.com, speakerscornerrecords.com, and that's where they actually have their product. The Pure Analog site is more about them giving you detailed information about how LPs are produced. They say on there, because a great deal of information has already been given up about the manufacturing of vinyl disc, we focus here upon the production process up to the cutting of the lacquer disc only. So they are really trying to give you a little more of a behind the scenes look of how they do what they do. So I think that's a little bit refreshing to see. They don't have a ton of titles. You know, it's like MOFI. They have titles that Analog Productions doesn't have, for example. And then Analog Productions, of course, has titles that MOFI doesn't have. And these are all licensing arrangements and things of that nature. But Speaker's Corner, I think if they can't get the tape to do it the way they do it, then they won't offer that title. So that may be a reflection of why they have less releases, because they are not able to get as much of that as they would like, or is being made available to them. So it may be part of the situation. But I would, you know, encourage you to check them out. Their product is available through some sellers on Discogs. Again, most of the ones I picked up have either been when I was in Europe, Or I did get some through the ingroove.com, which is Mike Esposito's site and location in Arizona. He stocks these occasionally. I've seen them on Acoustic Sounds as well. So you kind of got to shop around a little bit to find them. But you might want to check them out. Go look at their catalog on Discogs. Maybe pick a few out and then see who has them available. I think you'll appreciate the transparency of the information they have, and give a listen to their product. I think you'll find it's really a strong product in the market. So now that we've had these discussions, I think it's great that we can now broaden our perspective and look at others. I'm going to be looking at music on vinyl and having some discussions with you on that in the near future. I have quite a few music on vinyl titles, and I've been going through those and doing some A/Bing of those with MOFI and or original pressings to kind of give you my impression of some of those. That's another title that's out of Europe. The other thing I do want to mention about Speaker's Corner is that they exclusively use Pallas as their pressing facility in Germany, which is one of the, if not the best pressing facilities in the world. I think many of us have gotten the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album. That's a 45 RPM 2LP version that was pressed at Pallas, which is just a fabulous pressing. You can go again even on their website through Discogs and look at all the titles that they've pressed to see, if a favorite artist has pressing that has been done at Pallas that you might want to pick up versus another, because the pressing plant does make a big difference in the process. The other thing, of course, that makes a big difference is the mastering engineer that's used. I saw a few of the ones for Speaker's Corner. I think the Doobies Brothers was done by Kevin Gray. He has his own mastering studios, Coherent, and you can look them up on Discogs and see what albums he's mastered. So you can really start doing a little bit of research and finding where the niche is that best matches what you're looking for. And I think that that's kind of what the MOFI thing has caused, is a little bit of a shakeup in, hey, I really need to know a little more. I need to research a little more, and I need to maybe not make assumptions on certain things going forward. So that is, I think, a positive, but it's a hard lesson to learn, of course. So again, thank you for watching. As always, if you would, please press the subscribe button and the bell there for notifications. And if you like the video, you could indicate that, and commenting is always welcome. So until next time, I want to thank you for watching The Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.